Hello and welcome to this exploring session, this second first look exploring session looking at the comedy of the most virtuous and godly Susanna, never before this time printed, written by Thomas Garter sometime in the 1560s. We are joined as we continue this tale with a number of support cats, as it's important to note that the plot of Susanna, taken from biblical sources, is not particularly cheerful. So I don't know precisely what material we're going to be getting now, but content warning for certainly threats of sexual violence potentially coming up now. But as per ever, all plays from the early modern period come almost with their own de facto trigger warning for the potential surprise leaping out at you of misogyny, racism, or other things that were considered acceptable then, even though they never really were. Today, reading this text from the entrance of Susanna, who we have not as of yet met. We've read a relatively small session. In the previous session, we've read and been introduced to Ill Report, son of Satan. Satan is Ill Report's dad. We have been introduced to Joachim, a concerned and actually relatively dull figure, and two judges. So we have met a reasonably large percentage of the cast so far. Go back to the earlier video to find out a little bit more about them. Reading on in the text today, joining us to read Susanna and Helchia is
Lynsey Beauchamp, actor, currently living in Norfolk, and I will be trying to be virtuous and godly.
Excellent. Reading Joachim and Sensualitas, hopefully not at the same time, is...
Hi, David, researcher and writer on British art, based in London.
Reading Ill Report, son of Satan, and Uxor, wife of Helchia later on, is...
Rachael, Nicole, actor, New Jersey. I will try to be not godly or virtuous because I am evil in this.
Absolutely. Reading Serva, one of various servant parts, as well as True Report, not to be confused with Ill Report. They're very different. If you get them confused in your machinery, then terrible things are going to happen. Reading those two parts are...
Liza Graham in London gave up on virtue and godliness quite a while ago. This is my distinguished associate, Milo. Please listen to what he is saying.
Important thoughts there, or strong message here. Reading Ancilla and Servuus, who are both also in the general direction of maids, is.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I do not have something that will beat a purr. I mean, that's just, yeah.
Now, the best I've got is a duck. And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I will, for once, be reading actually some text today. So I will be reading Voluptas, one of the two judges. I will endeavour to throw in stage directions as well and try not to make that too confusing. I will use different voices or wave at you when I'm doing stage directions. So I say we're midway through what we might call scene 2. And here we have joining Joachim and the two judges. Here entereth Susanna and her two maids.
I cannot but must marvel much of Joachim, my lord, and why he cometh not home to dine, according to his word. Was it not at 12 o'clock that he said he would dine? How think you both, in faith? Is it not a little past that time?
Not much, madam. He is not wont to break his promise just.
No, madam. He will be long with you, you may trust.
Well, yonder he is, methinks.
It is he in very deed.
I will...
And with that she goeth to him and maketh curtsy.
I will not say unto you now what you did cause me think. Indeed, I will conceal it now, and at the matter wink.
What, Susan, dost thou chide me now? I will tell thee my mind, that women there be none at all, but shrews they are by kind.
Well, Well, to avoid this controversy, I will confess that crime, and I pray you heartily to arise and let us home to dine.
Note that from the entrance of Susanna, the judge's eyes shall never be off her till her departure, whispering between themselves as though they talked of her.
What, is it dinner time so soon? Methinks it's scantly noon.
Yes, good my lord, I pray you now, make ready and go we soon.
With this, Joachim, Susanna, and her two maids go to the table to the two elders.
Lo, now, my masters, you may see the state of married men. My wife is come, I must be gone, I must yield to her when.
And reason good forsooth it is, where for every man made to do in something as his wife shall will his willing heart unto.
You speak it well in very deed, but it were hard to find if both your words and heart did agree in uttering this your mind.
If he speak not his thought, madam, I dare beshrew his heart. For as he said, I think indeed, and shall do for my part. Your conclusion now, I see, is that I should obey my wife in this her small request. Well, well, I say not nay, but Susan, come, let us go home, the sooner shall we dine, as I do you, so you shall me, obey another time.
And reason good in faith, my lord, both now and always too, that I should follow your behests, as reason wills me do.
Well, farewell, my masters, till afternoon. I trust you will dine, and be here again soon.
I warrant you we will not be long.
If we should do you wrong.
And here Joachim, Susanna, and her two maids depart, and the judges make up their books and rise. And in a moment, Voluptas will speaketh. But just to clarify for those watching the videos, because we're doubling rather a lot, I'd had Sensualitas chatting to himself as Joachim at the same time. That was a cock-up. And if I was a bit slow on the upkeep, it's because some of the stage directions weren't properly embedded. Yeah, Joachim suddenly comes out as a bit... Comes out with a slightly arsey opening gambit there. Yeah, it's an interesting little discussion. It's interesting. Susanna's response to that is yes. Well, for an easy life, could we just go into dinner now? Moment there. That was interesting.
Yes.
Any thoughts on this little scenette that we have just concluded before we move forward?
I mean, I just was agreeing with you, really, that Susanna's form of words is quite correct, but it's also open to interpretation, and I found that quite interesting. She doesn't seem as much of a pushover as maybe she's written.
Yeah, we're David.
Well, it could just be presented as sort of long married, sort of contented bickering, really, I think.
It's interesting because, as I say, this is the opening gambit for Susanna. We've had a little bit from Joachim, and it wasn't quite moving in that direction. So it's quite interesting what spin that text should have. Liza.
Well, this Bible story about a woman in danger has been reimagined for this play as a comedy, and Joachim's utterances about Susanna are very much in keeping with early modern comedy, that, oh, he's being ordered around by his wife, and isn't it a pain, and hey, lads, don't wives do this? But I quite like the line, as I do you, so shall you me obey another time. It seems to me the portrait of a quite balanced marriage, that they know when to give way to each other, perhaps.
And we should be a bit careful about the word comedy yet. Precisely what impression that's giving us of the play may not be wholly accurate. I don't know yet until we've finished reading it whether we can say that the slightly more fluid definition of what it means then. Broadly speaking, it does mean it's something that's going to end happily, but otherwise, how many laughs it's designed to elicit is very much an open question. Let us move on and gather more evidence as we are left with Voluptas and Sensualitas having a little chat. So David remains as Sensualitas now. There's no split personality, hopefully, coming on in any more of this text, he said, hopefully. So, Voluptas speaketh first. Liza, could I just ask you to read the next few stage directions, please?
Yes, I will. The judges
It's like I've just cursed Liza's internet connection there.
See me? I'm here! Oh
You are
no! Alas, alas. I'm
back.
here. Okay. The judges make up their books and rise, and Voluptas speaketh.
Now, Master Sensuality, I would Master Doctor were here.
I had rather talk with him than hear of this gear.
And so shut their books.
Oh, Venus, that have suffered me to quench my youthful fire with love of those from time to time that I did most desire, and Cupid to that never erst did seek to quench the heart of her to whom thou gavest might to mitigate my smart. Continue still your friendly guise to me, your ancient man, and now with point of piercing dart do cause that fair Susanna may love again those that love her. Grant this, you gods, to me, and pull away even what you will. I crave no more but she.
Or if you gods have any power, as ancient poets feign, mark well my words which from the heart proceed, I tell you plain. If any man in all the world have cause for to reply, I must confess and thank you too, the same is very I. I never yet did fancy her, I thank you for your grace, but you vouchsafe to give her me, with time as meet as place. Now those which in felicity by your good grace have been, that you will here thus cast them off, let not those days be seen. Grant to us now that Susan may grant love for love again. Thrice happy then shall be our days. We shall be void of pain.
Oh, what wight in all this world hath fortune so fawned on as she have done on Joachim's side? In truth, I think of none. A wife, quoth her? No, I think an angel sure she be. Why, all this world, nor 10 worlds mo', have any such as she. The pewter of her formed face, the glistening of her eyne, her shoulders that are quadrant too, her nose that is so fine, her cheeks that are so cherry red, her lips so red and thin, her smiling cheer which often shows the pits upon her chin, her breasts that are so round and fair, her arms that are so long, her fingers straight with veins beset of blue and white among, her middle straight, her body long, her buttocks broad and round, her legs so straight, her foot so small, the like treads not on ground. I think that nature, which made her, cannot make like again, or else that she a goddess is. I think I tell you plain. Eh, judge, quoth her, a juggler, lord, I would thou madest of me, so that I had to juggle with such juggling staff as she.
Why, sir, you are a juggler now. I pray you answer me. What is the juggling staff you crave, if granted it may be?
You know yourself no necromancy, but yet of legendamen, a cast or two, but secretly would right well please us twain.
By God, I would spend my best coat to fish within her pool, and yet my father in fisher's art was never but a fool. But what for that it forceth not, if we might spy a place, and time that well may serve the turn, I will put forth the case. But we are counted elders here, and do the people guide, and what we do must secret be, least that we be espied. For God or for his threatenings, I pass it not a straw, but for mine honour in this world, is it I stand in awe.
You say, I do assure you, as I myself do think, the time that we have here to live, it lasteth but a wink. And when that we are dead and gone, then rest we in the ground, and out of doubt besides this life none other life is found. Therefore I do assure you, I meant, and do mean still, by right or wrong, by force or fraud, to live and have my will, to eat and drink, to quaff and play, I care not in what sort, to lead my life full merrily, and every kind of sport. And for to have the company of such a one as she, I will oppress 1,000 fools to give her golden fee. Marry, always in our garments sad and grave we must us show, and that shall still our likeness hide, that no man shall it know. But yet our enterprise seemeth great, that we do mean to do, for Susan is a secret dame, report me unto you. And eke her credit is so great, that if she do deny, and most and least in all the world believe her by and by, and therefore let us seek and know each danger still afore, and so our ship shall safely sail, and we may keep on shore. And therefore, if we could by craft some slander on her raise, it might help well our credit when we seek our lust to please.
I promise thee I must account thy wits to be divine. Thy senses are of such effect, how far do they pass mine? I know a mate full meet for this, if I knew his resort. A fellow for this toy alone, his name is ill report. Why, see how good our fortune is, see how he cometh yond, and we to see his entrance now, in corner here will stand.
And we'll just pause there before the voice comes in, because there's quite a lot to unpack there. There's interesting questions here, because they met Ill Report earlier. But they thought he was a doctor, and that earlier scene I'm now very confused about.
Yes, they thought he was a doctor. They asked if he could cure them of love. He said, yes, but I'll need some drugs. They said, great, here's 10 pounds. And then they parted. They to do their work, and he to purportedly get the drugs to cure them of love with their 10 pounds.
Mm. But are they thinking this is the same person or a separate person? It's like, because he didn't. I don't think they thinking of him as Master Doctor. They don't think he gave him his name.
Yeah, it's weird. You're right. He didn't give them his name, and whether they know Ill Report as a separate person from the imagined Doctor, I guess we'll see as we read on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was striking me very powerfully are both Sensualitas and Voluptas in terms of this abuse of power. That, we must make ourselves look completely uncorruptible so that we can do all the things that we want to do underneath. And that speaks very, very strongly to power today as well as then. So many things there. Lynsey.
Yeah, just following on from that. I mean, both of them, it's outright blasphemy, isn't it? They both state, when that we are dead and gone, then rest we in the ground, and out of doubt beside this life none other life is found. And above that, for God or for his threatenings I pass it not a straw. So I mean, I think that's quite interesting. I mean, I am trying to think when I've heard such overt sort of denial of the religion in a play like this. I can't. Maybe it's quite common and I just haven't picked up on it, but it.
I'm trying to think. I think we've definitely had at least one example, if not a couple. Obviously they're always bad people, but yeah. So it's very confused about, these people in relation to their earlier scene and this scene and how they're functioning as characters. So I'm finding this slightly confusing. Interesting, but confusing. Rachael, then Eric.
No, I was just gonna say I don't remember if it was in John the Evangelist or one of the End Town plays, but somebody goes up to one of these like doctors of philosophy or something, and talks them into how religion is the true way or something like that. I don't know this is like a way that academics and like people who are very in business or law or something are portrayed as being less faithful or something, if that's a trope that is something that they get criticized on, or in these morality plays, I guess, that makes them susceptible to vice or corruption.
There is an interesting thing, I think, in Everyman where when the Everyman goes off stage, there's this interesting little conversation about what makes a good priest. And because we should always obey the clergy, unless it's a bad priest. But if you follow a bad priest, you'll still get to heaven. It'll be fine because it's just the priest that's bad, kind of thing. I think that's in Everyman. I could be wrong. So yeah, the questions about people in authority, still have to obey the rules and all the other rules that the rest of humanity has. Eric.
I was going to say that they're also kind of like comedy characters in like sort of, the whole, peering over a newspaper kind of thing. Like, obviously not, well, in this case it's books, because they make up their books and Voluptas speaketh and then they shut their books. I don't know, it's just kind of cartoony in that way.
Yeah, I found reading Voluptas that it was, I sort of pulled it back after a while, but I sort of went in with a sort of quite a light vein. It was quite difficult to say her buttocks broad and round without it going in a generally quite. It doesn't feel like a serious statement, even of lust.
That is mad description of any character. That is just mad. It's just mad.
Well, again, the extravagance keeps it in the realm of comedy, because again, to have people fall in love or in lust with this suddenness and this exaggeration sort of robs it of threat. It makes it ridiculous, and I personally quite like when things are ridiculous.
Yes.
And not threatening.
Yes. Well, we were talking last time, about what the tone for the piece is, and so far we're sticking with that kind of relatively light touch at the moment. So we'll see where that goes. Eric.
I was going to say, yeah, but on the other hand, like you kind of want it to be threatening because otherwise you don't take the violence seriously in some ways.
I think it has it both ways in a way, because like at the end of that hilarious description from Voluptas, it's these lines about, I'd rather be a juggler than a judge so that I could juggle with such a juggler. It sort of potentially could become quite threatening there. So.
Well, especially when we get to that abuse of power, this is explicitly stating, it's not like we're drifting into corruption. We're going, no, I think we're going to be corrupt from now on. Do you Sensualitas? I think we'll be corrupt from now on. Yes, we will. And we will make ourselves look on the outside as respectable as possible.
Yes, and as judges, they're going to oppress the common people to get gold to give to offer to Susanna for her favors. I will oppress 1,000 fools to give her gold and fee.
And they're going to slander her, because everyone listens to her, and everyone, thinks she's fine, and so they're gonna slander her in order, presumably, to blackmail her. I'm getting that sense, but.
Eric.
I was going to say, didn't we have that in an End Town play? But I'm pretty sure we haven't put those online yet, so I don't know. Where there were some like a Pharisee and some scholars and I don't know, a very buff, I don't know, clerk or something, who broke down the door to sort of. Rachael is going, I know this play.
So a woman taken in adultery, which indeed has not been released yet, but it will be coming soon, unless you're watching this in the future, in which case it will be available. Yeah.
It's very much that kind
of. Okay, I think we shall continue. For the moment, I'll ask Liza to continue reading stage directions until you enter and the system falls apart. So, Sensualitas Voluptas are on stage, but we have an entrance.
The vice entereth, and looketh not at them.
Twixt Dover and Kent, except I miswent, is miles 5 and dirty. Twixt London and Paul's are cods-headed knolls, a shameful company. twixt Freshingfield and Faversham and Norwich and Ludham, 1.5 miles. Twixt Dunnington and Daubney, if you will believe me, is a cow and a calf. At Framling Town steeple, amongst all the people, are oysters to sell. At the sign of the plough is a very fair sow. I know her by the smell. At Battingham Quay, a woman hard say, lay ships at an anchor. The best red wine that ever drank swine, at the sign of the tanker. On Shooter's Hill is such a windmill, to grind gunpowder withal, as old women's bones are saved for the nuns, to keep work withal. Who, Robin, who? How far wilt thou go? From Romney to Rome. Well, it makes no matter. Who can lie and flatter may come again soon. Why, what kind of weather did bring me hither, or what make I here? Examine me well, for I cannot tell. Is not this good gear? Well, even like a mom, I must pack and be gone to one place or other. My dad is so black that what I do lack, I ask of my mother.
The vice, running out, is stayed by Sensuality, who saith,
Why, friend, know you not me?
Why, man, I know not myself.
No, art not thou a physician?
No, by my troth, sir, is in no condition.
No, I trow we too gave thee £10.
Marry, sir, and I am glad that such guests I have found. For the law saith plainly thus, look what a man doth give, is irrecompensable sure, so long as God doth live. But you shall have your come again so soon as God is dead, or else take all my lands and goods, and also take this head. Till then my masters record bear what you do hear and see. These gentlemen do both confess that they did give it me.
Why, friend, shall we lose our money?
Why, fool, though I know not physic, I know a cunning.
Master Voluptas, for the money force not. He is a good fellow, and will otherwise deserve it, I do right well know.
I will say no more of it, but do remit the same. But I pray thee, tell me, what is thy name?
Mary, sir, a woman.
What art thou, a man, and hast a woman's name?
Why, sir, are you a woman, and have a man to your dame?
Nay, I pray thee, jest not, but tell me thy name.
In faith, sir, she can do you no pleasure, for she goeth with crutches.
Why goeth upon crutches, I pray thee tell?
Marry, my dam, sir, her arse is not well, for she had a vengeance hot pain between her legs, and her surgeon hath maimed her with driving in pegs.
Ha, 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 thou art a merry fellow. I ask thee thy name.
By my father's soul, sir, I know not the same, but yet I will talk like a master of art. Though my chief erudition hath been at the cart, twixt Ilfarde, Reading, and Portsmouth, you shall find my name, I tell you forsooth.
If thou wert gentle, thou wouldst not send me so far, but friendly declare, and show what you are.
Why, whether I be friendly or no, in faith thou art foolish, and mad too, I think, and understandest not English. Take the first syllable of these towns 3, and what my name is thou shalt plainly see.
I will rid the strife and tell in plainer sort. His name, as I told you, is Ill Report.
What plain ill report? No master at all. In faith, for all your bloody gown, I will rap you on the skull.
Why, gentle master ill report, it is a friendly part to plain words, with plain words to salute a friend proceeding from the heart, and I dare speak in your behalf, although you seem to swear that friendly you do take his words, as we do friendship bear.
Give me thy hand, my friend, I swear by my dad and lord, thou art arse honest a man, as is in the uni-arse whole world. Thou lovest me, and thou lovest me, and I love thee, and I love thee, and is not ill report, voluptuousness and sensuality, a glorious and blessed trinity, a pestilence on you both.
I think we need to stop there. I think we really need to stop there. As thou art arsonhonest, man, as is in the uni arsehole world. My word. Yeah, and the word is arse. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting wordplay going on here. I'm now more confused in a sense about precisely how this exchange and everything that happened earlier worked. But I'm sort of just going with it because of very bad puns. Some lots of double entendre, clever word stuff. Ilford, Reading, and Portsmouth to make ill report. I think he needs to repeat those names. That's probably inferred rather than stated. And then ill report. We've had this kind of thing before where it might be that he's basically coming on doing the first couple of lines of lots of different songs. And so it's a sort of mash-up song. So it's like he starts doing one bit and then he goes off onto a totally different tangent. So it's like he's sort of on his iPod's on shuffle.
The meter stays the same. So I'm guessing if he's singing, then the tune probably stays the same. I was also wondering whether all of these place names could give us a clue as to the play's location and where it might have been written, where it might have been performed. I mean, this is all sort of south London-ish, home counties-ish.
We go from Portsmouth to the north of the of East Anglia, so it's
Rome.
Yeah, we cover quite a lot. Fressingfield's in Suffolk. Then we've got Norwich in Norfolk. We've got Portsmouth down in the south. Ilford's in Essex. Reading. We are covering most of the yes, you could say it orbits London.
So the Vice has some kind of like Network Southeast rail card or something.
Yeah, but they never fully give you all the coverage you want.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's the absence of an integrated transport policy, but that's a separate issue for another play. Yeah, sorry, I was wittering on that. Yeah, we don't go that far north, I don't think, and I don't think we go that far west, but we cover, broadly speaking, east, south, and tad bits of the Midlands. And yeah, we've been given our names properly on stage as well: voluptuousness and sensuality. Not just the Latin names of the character designations. This is the first time on stage we've been told that that's our names. Nobody's heard that yet. Other thoughts? Lynsey.
Yeah, I just wanted to really, it's not so much a thought as a question, is all this sort of play on ill report not saying his name, but also saying that he's a woman, and this sort of rather nasty image about, the surgeon hath maimed her with driving in pegs, and also, I mean, I just didn't really know what was going on there, or what that was about, really.
Yeah, because the humour there is suddenly much darker, isn't it? We've got really fun comedy, and then we mix it up with these very graphic images of what it seems to be just a demonstration of wordplay that doesn't necessarily fully make sense. I mean, that reference makes sense. It's not very pleasant, but it's she's going to be walking with crutches after, etc., etc. It's quite graphic in that sense. Eric.
I was going to mention like the whole thing about, take the first syllable of these towns 3 and so on and so forth. That just reminded me of one of the pageants that we did a few weeks ago, where they tried to shoehorn in the name of one of the I think it was the Lord Mayor, but I can't remember if it was the Lord Mayor or one of the members of the sort of the past Lord Mayors. where it's like, oh yes, and if you take this and this, and it's like, yeah, no, that doesn't work. It works better here.
Okay. Any other? We're mid-scene. We paused literally after just the terribleness of that joke. Where are we? I haven't actually noted where we are.
Let us leave now, Master Ill Report.
Yes, so that would suggest also a slight change of direction in the scene as well. So that seems good. Ill Report has done a terrible pun and given us names. Let us continue.
I sorry, briefly. I do quite like, in terms of blocking the image that they might all, since Ill Report has said that he loves them both, they might all be in some sort of group hug, and one of them might want to get out of it, and Ill Report might be.
Well, yeah, and you've got the handshaking business inferred as well. So it's like, you're my friend, and 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 it's like it just keeps going round and gets more complicated.
Pictured it more as like daisies. Oh, you love me, and you love me, and you, like with the, yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts before we move on? No. Okay. Sensualitas, I think you're up.
Let us leave now, Master Ill Report.
Why, knave, dost thou check me in such a sort?
No, sir, but we have weighty matters to discuss, and for your wisdom's sake we account you chief of us. And because it concerneth women's kind, I know you as good as any man may find.
In women's gear I am alone. It is my whole delight, and I will help you in that case, be it wrong or right.
Well then, I will be short unto thee, man. We burn both with lust to Susanna.
And Venus with botches for wine, and Ceres for corn, is always cold, and thou burnest after a horn.
Why, sir, why say you, sir?
Thine own words in such sort go. Didst not thou say to me even now, man, that thou wast in love, and could not get thy shoes on?
No, sir, no. I speak of Susanna.
Who, sir? The country hath no para, and is not a neat's feather, I pray thee. Better to pull on thy shoes than to pull them on with thy fingers and
We talk of Joachim's wife, whose name in Latin is Susanna.
Oh, es nomen mulieris, and you would have tactus ipsias ventris. You love well salmon of the messes. For a woman's belly your diet doth please. But if you mean to have my help to fortify your forte, all that I can do is to give her an ill reporte, by which means if you prove and cannot speed that she desires you, the people's ears I will feed, whereby and by your demure countenance you shall by love or fear obtain your desired dalliance.
Oh, excellent wit, and friendship irrecompensible. We will requite you with the like, if ever we be able.
By my troth, you say very well, for so do the common sort, in recompense of a good turn, give ill report. Well, get you packing to dinner, and when you find her alone, speed your purpose, if you may, and let me alone. For I will cloak your doings, and hers shall be the blame. You shall do the fault, and she shall have the shame. Well, once again, adieu.
And to be short, as much again to you.
Here go out the judges, and the vice tarrieth still.
Must not a commonwealth be needs in good health, that have such rulers? They are sick of the sweat, and to avoid their heat they must have coolers. They must needs speed well, that know I come from hell, and seek mine advice. Will do them not blame, or to open shame I will them entice. And so at the last I shall bring to pass my father's desire. For Susan were the judge, to please his old grudge, shall burn in his fire. What, cease, knave, cease, hold thy tongue and be peace. What is he comes here It is Joachim, alas! I will be gone by the mass. It is he that I fear.
Joachim entereth, and the vice runneth out.
7 times is said that in one day the just man doth offend. Then 7 times 7 do I, alas, good Lord, do it amend. And grant that what I take in hand, or what I shall begin, may guided be by thy good grace, and so I shall not sin. Well, to see what my mates have done, to help each poor man's case, I will absent myself a while, and get me from this place. But yet before that I go hence, Lord, shield me with thy might, and grant me by thy wonted grace to judge each thing aright. I pass not of this pomped world, nor might that is therein. I seek, good Lord, by thy good grace, in heaven a place to win. And therefore I assure myself my hope shall be no less, that if thou guide me with thy grace, I shall obtain thy bless. And so shall all that virtue seeks, and live here on the ground, and they that do the contrary, God will them sure confound. Well, weighty business calls me hence. To God I leave you all, who grant us all to stand upright, and not in sin to fall.
Here goeth out Joachim, and Susanna's 2 maids enter.
But we're there, we will briefly pause. It's interesting, this mix of comedy business, very broad comedy business, with the encroaching darkness and the encroaching sense of things coming, because Joachim comes on and basically says, right, I'm popping out for a bit immediately after plans have been laid, so he's not going to be around, and following the footsteps of many a husband in tales, but following on from this material with again continuing this wordplay with ill report of Suzanne, shoes on. I speak of Susanna, and I should have put an to lead into ill reports. No para, I pray thee so that the and yeah, being mocked by ill report before again going into what the plan is. And yeah, it's a really interesting, jarring juxtaposition, and I'm still not quite sure what I'm feeling about it, which I think is a really interesting effect. I don't know if it's a good thing or not. Thoughts from the room, Liza?
It occurred to me during Joachim's speech that this guy talks to God more than he talks to his wife.
He talks to God more than he talks to anyone. He did vaguely chat to the judges, didn't he?
Yeah, he might even talk to them more than he talks to his wife.
Well, we have not had that much stage time for Susanna. I mean, Susanna has said, a dozen or so lines so far in the play, and we are a reasonable percentage of the way into the text. I mean, she's going to say more a little bit later on, but so far not a lot. So I don't know if that's more about Joachim not talking to his wife, or just simply that his wife's just not really present in the narrative. Rachael, I think.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say this is like, I don't know, maybe it's coming off the play from this morning, but this is just so much more well written. This is just so, the writing style is well written. I'm still yeah, I don't know. Ill reports, I don't know, pretty quick and comedic, even though the nature of what they're making fun of is not you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'm going to push back slightly on that. The text this afternoon was not regular. This text is a very regular verse form. It's
that is what I mean.
Yeah. So just for clarity, there are issues with Misogynist which we're reading this afternoon, but in terms of what the writer is intending to do in terms of effect seems to function. Rachael.
Well, I should I guess clarify what I meant. This is this being more regular, even though there's problematic things in the text make it easier to understand. And even though I'm not going to digest the humor of it completely, it's more regurgitatable, if that makes sense, to more performable and easier to access.
It's certainly clearer. It's definitely clearer. Misogynist was definitely very, very opaque. Other thoughts on this text? Liza, not Lynsey.
It's very very pithily put. You shall do the fault, and she shall have the shame. I mean, if that isn't a t-shirt line, I don't know what is. I mean, it's absolutely encapsulating the this whole misogynistic trope that's being played out here. It's such a pithy phrase, I think. So.
Yeah, well, I was going to say not so much T-shirt as more placard. It does lay it out very, very clearly, doesn't it? And then just a Jew. They've done that. Okay, are we content to move forward? Any additional thoughts? No, so Joachim has gone. Here we now meet Susanna's two maids again, Ancilla and Serva. The two judges will be rejoining us in a moment, and Susanna will join as well. There are two servants coming up, by the way. Ancilla is replaced by Servuus as well, and I'm wondering whether they're two different people or just the same person, just with the speech designation got confused.
Well, Ancilla is a female servant's name, means handmaid, I think, and Servuus is a dude's name. It's gendered masculine.
Oh,
Serva with an A is a lady servant.
Excellent. I did the doubling correctly then. Excellent. I knew I did it for a reason. Excellent. So, I return to my duties. Here goeth out Joachim, and Susanna's two maids enter.
When first I came into the court, where we do servant dwell, what I did think would move you laugh if I that tale should tell.
To laugh sometime is mentionable. Therefore thou mayst do well thy merry thought to utter now, that time doth serve to tell.
I heard once in my father's house a gentleman declare the worthy customs of the court, and eke the princely fare, the gorgeous garments of each dame, their fame and their fine and famous life, the noble works of amorous knights, their stout and loving strife, the pleasure of each worthy dame, how they do hunt and hawk, and wearied with each pastime thus, the streets how they did walk, the noble masques that were showed forth in every winter's night, the revels and the revelling cheer that did each heart delight, musicians how they did devise with songs to please the ear, and music's art by instrument that gladded hearts to hear. And sometime the poor man's child that there is placed to be, to honor climbs for virtue's sake, and brought to high degree. Tush, then was I on fire set, till I could get the grace of fathers and of mothers' grant to dwell in such a place. They granted me, and I was glad, and thus I came here to dwell. But now I think both you and I another tale can tell, and yet none of us can deny but that his words were true, and that pertains not to my state, nor yet belongs to you. For we but waiters are on them that lead these happy days. We trudge and travail and take pain, they do possess the praise. Thus when I think how wide I shot when I shot at this mark, I laugh to see how ready youth is still to change his work. I leaped from ease and quiet state within my native soil, and came into the stranger air to travel and to toil.
And can you laugh at this conceit? Then I will make you smile, when time and place shall serve again for us to talk a while. But now let us be packing hence, our dame may think us long. She will forsooth give us the right, if we give her the wrong.
Hark, Serva, hark, the clock strikes one. 'Tis time for us to go. It is a point of policy to love and fear shrug.
they go out, and so we're getting a sense of time. We're getting a clock striking. We're getting the two handmaidens talking, and now they go out, and Sensuality and Voluptas enter.
Oi mihi quod nullis amor est medicabilis herbis. Woe to me, wretch! Woe once again, woe to this day and hour, wherein my heat of ardent love will cool with herb nor flower. Woe to the god that sends the love, woe to him bears the dart, and can so strike as will not heal by herb or medicine's art. Woe to myself that fixed my heart, where I cannot revoke. Woe to that blind boy once again that gave my heart the stroke. If I may find a time and place to cool this my desire, I will do it to spite the gods, I care not for their ire.
Sensualitas, my friend, you know as well as I how first we found by secret means Susanna's haunt to spy. She goeth each day when she hath dined unto a certain spring, within her orchard her to watch, which is a wholesome thing. There were we sure at the least our eyes to fill and please. Be quiet then, that may perhaps our sorrows partly ease.
Say full well, and I think sure, if we could closely hide ourselves within some covert place, a time there might be spied, wherein we might take her alone, and then through love or might, we would have both our pleasure there, to void this sorrowful plight.
Well, let us go and hide ourselves within that orchard then, for after dinner she comes there, I know her wanted when, and ill report us promised, whatso we say or do, that he could excuse us of the fault and blame Susanna too.
Have with you then with all my heart, O Lord, that she were there. Away, apace, go on afore, methinks she cometh here.
Here they go
Oh, sorry, Liza, thank
Here they go afore into the orchard, and Susanna and her two maids come upon the stage.
If any woman in this world my God may justly praise, it is I, good Lord above the rest, that liveth in these days. Thou blessest me, my Lord and God, and eke my loving spouse, my cattle in the field abroad, my servants in the house. My corn, both in the barn and field, doth yield full great increase. And thus, O Lord, thy benefits towards us doth never cease. O Lord, do grant that these thy gifts do not our hearts so fill, that if thou lay a hand on us, we take that part for ill. But as by this thy providence we live and take our rest, we may, if any storm do fall, account it for the best. Ancilla, have you warned the cook his business so to end, as slackness in the same his art, my lord, do not offend?
Yea, madam, each thing is pressed and shall be in good hour. He's right careful for his part, I do it you assure.
And, Serva, have you for your part done that I bid you do?
Those things which you gave me in charge, myself have done them too.
Well then, will I go wash myself? To the orchard let us go.
And here they go into the orchard.
Methinks the weather very warm, the season very hot. And yet there is a thing or two that both you have forgot.
What is that, madam?
Neither of you, both, I think, have brought me soap and oil to wash the sweat off from my skin or rid away the soil. Well, go you both together hence, I think you know wherefore, and speed again. But here you ho, make fast the orchard door.
Yes, forsooth.
Here they go out and shut the orchard door. Just going to pause there. Wow. So we've been here before with a later play where similarly someone got moderately oiled up, as I recall, for very similar story kind of reasons as well. So there's something quite pervy about that. And yeah, there's some. We definitely we just keep feeling this darkness edging in now. It's just getting more and more uncomfortable. Any thoughts from the room before we go further into that darkness? Rachael.
No, I don't know. This scene. I was thinking again. I was wondering why he was ill rapport and the devil were going after Susanna and not the two judges, because I was like thinking like, isn't that like a 2-for-1? And then I realized, well, they probably already got them and they're trying to get somebody else. I don't know, probably obvious to everybody, but yeah.
Oh no, it's a good point. It's you're going for the bigger target as well. If you can get Susanna, then that's a thing. And was it Eric in the chat was talking about the orchards and the apples and the fruits of temptation? It's a really important thing. So we have this stage direction. They go into the orchard, and the impression I've got here is that it's a doorway. All you're seeing is them go in through a doorway, and then they're in that arch, and then the door is closed. Liza.
Yeah, orchards. Because fruit trees don't grow in the wild, you have to build a wall around your orchard, or else everyone will come and steal your fruit, people and animals. So orchards tend to have walls, and they have gates. And yeah, really good call by Eric, because again, a walled garden is like an Eden, and we don't know what kind of fruit are in the play are growing there, but Susanna is certainly about to be tested, and people will in some sort attempt to tempt her. So.
Rachael.
No, I don't know, like how you were saying before that comedies back then were different, and they weren't defined the same way that we define them. I think I think it is treating this with the weight of it, and also this scene that artist Artemisia Gentileschi, she has a painting of this scene that they when she was painting it, the underpainting is very different from the actual finished painting, because she was criticized for the horror that she had done in the original of it, and so they had it they wanted her for the finished project to, I don't know, make it less like she was resisting. I don't know, but this makes me feel like it's the underpainting that shows the real trauma of it, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to say, like, the playwright is giving it respect, I feel.
There is a demarcation of material, isn't there? We've got comedy moments, and then we've got moments like this. Sorry to speak over you, Liza.
A demarcation, like in fact the orchard wall and the gate that wall off this scene, which is the scene everyone knows from the Bible, from the rest of the play, and the setup and the vice and the knockabout stuff. But yeah, Rachel's absolutely right to draw people's attention to that painting by Artemisia Gentileschi, who if you're watching this, Google it if you don't know it, because
I was going to say David is our resident art expert. I saw him grabbing books. So
yeah, that's the painting, the final version, but the underpainting, which they've photographed with infrared. Do you have it, David?
He's muted at present.
I'll try and find it.
Yeah.
Her face shows more clearly in the underpainted version horror and anger. And Italian art critics were like, oh no, this is unwomanly, and also we don't find it attractive, and it proving that there was just as much fail in the Italian Renaissance or Italian Baroque as there was at any other time.
Any additional thoughts while we see if David can rustle up a picture that I might have to blur on the internet anyway, for copyright reasons. I hope we'll be fine. I think.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to find it that quickly. There are about half a dozen different Susanna and her elders. So.
No, well, if it pops up later, we'll have a look.
No.
We have.
Okay.
Rachel has put it in the chat for us. Meanwhile.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, great.
So we can definitely look at it if no one else.
I think it should be the original and the X-rayed version alongside it.
It is. It is. Yes. Very, very good demonstration of the point that you and Liza are making about it. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, like the criticism of it was for neck, that it was so the criticism of it was like how you brought up the oil, that they have the oil in this scene. The criticism of this artwork by the people was that her neck muscles were not feminine and like they were unappealing. And it's like how there was not, they criticized there was not sensuality in the rape of her, basically, that she wasn't attractive to people while being assaulted.
Yeah, because this story was so often told for titillation value, and in art, of course, because Susanna is nude, it got painted a lot.
Eric?
I was going to say that it's interesting that we talk about how it's being sort of demarcated, but also it's being framed by this whole thing of like the two maids chatting, and then, and then Sensualitas and Voluptas enter, and then you're back to the maids, basically. Which is kind of, I don't know, it's just an interesting sort of thing to think about.
Yes, and actually in terms of staging it, whether these are explicit exits, and whether there's a sort of circling thing that the in staging it there could be something slightly more dynamic about that as well. Rachael.
Yeah, just one more thing about this is that in that painting that people can't see in the underpainting of this, in the underpainting she has a knife, in the finished painting she doesn't, and it's kind of different. Like in this play that we have here, she doesn't have any sort of weapons, and I think it's also that there's so much victim blaming in the time that Il Report even says that she'll get all the blame. It's that it's like the accusation that somebody has not fought back enough, which in the underpainting she's got a knife, which maybe she's gonna take it to her attackers.
Right. Well, we're going to find out what this dramatist does with this scene, and find out where it goes. So they have shut the orchard door. Susanna presumably on the other side of it. Ancilla and Serva are still on stage. They will be joined in a moment by Sensualitas and Voluptas in a stage direction that I've just noticed.
Prove with your foot if that the door, as we were bad, be locked.
I warrant you, he that would come in must stand a while and knock.
How say you, friend and fellow both, did we not go hence well? God's blessing ever his honest heart that first did found that bell. You said if you remember well, when I did tell my tale, to recompense the same with might, you said you would not fail.
You say but true, and to it then for losing of the time. My mother is a farmer's wife, her maids do serve her swine. But hear you what, if I again were at my country home, I would not leap thus to the court, to sit there like a mome. For pleasure more is in 1 hour there with our Jill and Jack, than here is in 500 years, for nothing there doth lack. There had I for to run abroad my free and youthfully will. Here we may not once peep, for fear our mouths are shut up still. I nothing doubt but when I shall to mother make my moan, for lack of talk, my tongue and lips together will be grown. Well, change I would this my straight life, I tell you for my part, and he that brought me to the court beshrew his naked heart.
Not long ago I heard one say, I think he meant by us, a Latin sense, and this it was, Nemos, what sort contentus? Women are inquisitive. I asked him what he meant. He said not one in all this world was with his chance content.
Well, we must now, and therefore peace. Let us go our way, for we it is that must account which way we spend the day.
And here they go out, and the two judges that lie hidden talk in this wise.
The greatest scourge that may be given to any living wight, I feel it now, alas, alas, that she is in my sight. Why Cupid's flames do burn my heart, why see my torments here, and yet to ease my hugy smart I dare not prove for fear. Now is the time, and let it go, we never find the leak, and yet to heal my secret woe, my heart is now to seek.
Peace, friend, consider well your state, and let your sorrow slake. For I it is that must and will this matter on me take. If you do this with languishing our presence here describe, before that we lay hands on her, when we were near the nigh, peace, I say, be still. I will to her alone, and follow you as you see time, as soon as I am gone.
I will.
Fair lady, be you not afraid that you do see us here. We both be come to do you good, and not to yield you fear. You see the orchard doors are fast, the walls are close and just. In all this world none can us see, we may do what we lust. I say again, in all this world none can see what we do. We burn toward thee with fervent lust, consent us therefore too. We are but men, and of that kind that thou thyself art made. Come lie with us, we love thee well. Susan, be not afraid. For if thou wilt not, then we shall a testimonial lay against thee of a marvellous force, and thus both we will say, a young man with thee here we found, in very secret sport, which caused thee away to send thy maids in such a sort.
Alas, methinks your thoughts and words together do not agree. You are of age, and know right well that no such sin should be. You know also God doth it curse, and eke our law on earth doth recompense such sinners too with sharp and cruel death. And therefore, good my friend, I say, do leave as you be gone, and I will hold me so content, and hide that you have done.
Nay, nay, madam, we mean not so. We mean to have our will. Do you consent? You shall us find both sure and secret still, and so we may have company. No wight can us correct, and this I know assuredly, no man will us suspect. This do, or else I swear for troth, we shall declare at large, as this my friend hath said afore, which were to greater charge. Therefore consent we might have done while we have used this talk. If not, do you assure you our evidence shall walk.
O Lord, O God, O King of bliss, what storms do stop my breath? If I fulfill your filthy lust, I know it breeds my death. And if I do not, then, alas, you trap me in your bands, and thus can I, poor innocent, by no means scape your hands. Well, better it is without the act, your danger to fall in, than to attempt my Lord my God with this so vile a sin.
And here, just briefly to pause, we have not clearly differentiated speech designation of help, help, help as to who is shouting that at this moment in time. So someone is shouting help, help, help. We then have a stage direction.
Here 2 servants of the house run out, and break open the orchard door, and asketh what is the matter, and then Voluptas speaketh.
What is the matter?
It was our chance in ending things, which we have for to end secretly to common here, where none should hear our mind. And lying close and secret still, we shame too much to show, but what we saw we keep it close till Joachim may it know.
There is but one that liveth for aye and seeth everything. He knoweth the fruit of every tree before the branch do spring. I leave to him in this my need that which I have to do. I am but one. Thou knowest, my God, these wicked men are two.
Methinks that this matter very strange, and sounds not like a truth my mistress Virtue all the world have noted from her youth.
Our mistress, yea, she doth her life in such sort still direct, as fickle fame at no time durst her honest life suspect. I tell thee true, Servuus, my friend, I flatter not for meed. It shall be found that they themselves have wrought this wicked deed, and cause that she would not consent to serve their filthy lust, they have wrought this to scuse themselves. Servuus, thou mayst me trust.
Come away, in faith, madam, you are a secret whore. For long have I mistrusted it, though I took you not before.
A whore, yea, vile and filthy whore. Fie on it, filthy act. I think 1,000 of her toys, the vilest whore doth lack.
Why, God, if I, most sinful wight, might reason once with thee, canst thou permit and suffer still these wicked thus to lie? My sorrows all and some I send them to thy heavenly throne. Receive my sobbing tears, O Lord, and ease me that do moan.
And here go out the 2 judges and Susanna. After that last little bit, we will briefly pause before we get to hear from Servuus and True Report about what's going on here. So I'm assuming that it's Voluptas and Sensualitas who cry for shout the help, 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 because that's their story. That she said no, and so therefore they're going to shame her. But I wasn't 100% certain whether that was what that speech prefix was. So yes, this is all about the shaming that they are attempting to do, and no actual physical assault seems to actually occur within this play. Thoughts from the room about the way Liza.
Well, I think certainly everyone who's been propositioned online by dudes has seen this thing that they proposition you in fair terms and then they refuse and then they call you a slut, when what you have done is the opposite of sluttery, in fact. So it's odd that hundreds of years later that should still be familiar to us, but here we are.
Yes, because you just look at the way the language of Voluptas and Sensualitas changes. I mean, it becomes so vile so quickly. Rachael.
No, I was just gonna repeat Liza's point. It's just that, they treat her like she's a nice girl until she says no. Just I think this talks about entitlement, sexual entitlement. And then also I wanted to say, I found out that the X-ray thing is actually it wasn't of the original painting by Artemisia Gentileschi. It was by a woman called Kathleen Giljay, the other thing that I sent in the chat. It was like her take on it.
David.
Yes, I just wanted to say I particularly loved Susanna's speech with "He knoweth the fruit of every tree," and that brought us back to the idea of the enclosed orchard and the sense of it being Eden.
Yes, the use of this orchard is it's doing lots of different work as a place for this imagery. Other thoughts? Who want? Lynsey.
We're going. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to be in he said, she said territory any minute now, aren't we? So, well, I mean, we already are in it. So, I am but one. Thou knowest, my God, these wicked men are two. You know.
And we've got these two servants. Where I think it is important that the two servants who run in here are two male servants. We have Servuus and we have True Report coming onto the scene, and I think there's an interesting choice there that they're not using the two handmaidens that we saw earlier.
You are taking a very long time to go and get the soap and oil. It must be said.
Well, they do seem to like to have a natter, don't they? They do, and I think we can unpick a lot. We haven't really talked about what they're talking about, Ancilla and Serva. I think there might be more to dig out of that, because I'm interested what they're actually talking about. Where it's best to live, where you get all these things that it's tangential, but it seems to connect as well. So it's not completely pointless. It is part of the whole of what this play is doing. Eric.
Well, yeah, there is that bit. I think it was Serva who said that, like, I in this place we can't really speak. We don't really have a voice, or I can't remember what the line was. Not for lack of talk. It was the previous one. Here we may not once but peep for fear, our mouths are shut up still. And it's like, well, that's obviously not just about their station, but also because they're surrounded by, well, not just surrounded by men, but like, by other people who are like not quite as well-intentioned, I guess. And also I was going to say that it's interesting how what was I going to say? I actually forgot. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll remember eventually.
That's all right. Any additional thoughts before we do essentially our last section, Lynsey?
Yeah, just that with the talk between the two servants, I mean, just as it was sort of happening now, I was sort of thinking, well, this is like a little side note on how they were all agog to get to court to live a great life, and they got there, and then they're servants, and they wish they could go home again. How that's going to connect with the overall theme, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I really liked that. And the other thing about what it's doing in terms of work is, it's delaying. The audience is expected to know where this is going. So to have these people talking about something tangential is part of the drama. It isn't even just structural about making sure that people are able to do X, Y, or Z in terms of getting on and off. It's there for a purpose. Eric, then Rachael.
Yeah, the bit I was going to mention was that, for example, in cases, I don't know, like legally in terms of at the time, but like sort of if you compare it to sort of non-Christian, mythology, whatever you want to call it. Like, for example, I know the story of Europa and that kind of thing. They would basically, it was Europa's fault, so to speak. But then legally in how do you call it, in classical Athens, it would have been the man's fault for adultery, which is, well, only if it was a free woman who belonged to someone, basically. But Whereas in this, it's clear that that the playwright is trying to shift the blame from the woman to the men. Basically, it's very clear that it's like, oh, it's not her fault. It's not, which is basically what is appropriate, obviously. But it just feels very sort of, it's 1 against 2, and then, she's defenseless against these 2 brutes. Well, not brutes, but old men. And then the 2 servants come to the rescue because they are men. It's more likely that they will be able to scare off her assailants.
Rachael.
No, what Lynsey was saying about how long does it take them, and like how these guys are talking about something completely different when they come in. I think it talks. I think maybe it's how high is the level of planning that they have, like that these 2 judges have made with their report to get her alone. Like, is somebody else off stage keeping her female servants occupied, and then maybe just this conversation of the other servants are having is just some naturalism in the play that nobody really expects to come upon this, in her house.
Yeah, no, maybe ill report is there, just trying to distract them. That I quite like. What was I going to say? Susanna has continued to not say very much, but what she says is very, very on point. And there is a question: are we feeling what we're feeling about Susanna as a character so far? And with her function within the drama seems to be more important than herself. If that is that a fair comment or an unfair comment?
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot on that front. But yeah, Lynsey.
I was just going to say, I feel it's a little bit. I'm not sure what's coming next, but I feel if there is a scene with the 2 judges and Susanna and Joachim, I feel that's where Susanna will say what she has to say. But if there isn't that scene, I'm not sure what to think. So,
yes, the question has been raised. Eric.
Well, I guess also it's that thing of what is being said versus what is not being said, because obviously the maids also did allude to the things that they can't say most of the time versus the things that they can say, or that they're allowed to say.
Okay, let us complete the text. We have effectively 2 scenes that will run into each other. We conclude the scene that we stopped with the exit of Susanna and the judges. The 2 servants, Servuus and True Report, remain on stage.
I heard you not, my fellow dear. I thought her heart had broken. Eke my soul did sorrow much to hear the words she spoke. But I know this assuredly, that if she guiltless be, God will defend the innocent from cruel destiny.
Guiltless, man, yes, assuredly. And mark what I do tell. Thou shalt see them die shamefully, and she shall do full well. Why, God himself hath spoken this. The fruit showeth every tree. And mark, if since thou knewest her first, where is one such as she? She serveth God devoutly still, she helpeth eke the poor, and to aid them that want relief, she goeth from door to door. And now, in this her greatest need, she doth upon God call. I promise thee, I trust in God, he will not let her fall.
And Servuus kneel down.
O Lord, that never didst refuse a sinner's just complaint, with tears I ask relief of thee, that this in her great constraint, that if she guiltless be, good Lord, as I do hope full well, do strengthen her, Lord, and teach her tongue which way her tale to tell. Not, Lord, that thou hast need of us, but for to heap thy praise, which thy desert shall herein get, for now and eke always. The world shall wonder at thy work, and always in thee trust, because thou dost deliver her from those that are unjust.
Rise up, Servuus, for I have heard ere this some men to say, The sore that sudden taken is, doth soonest wear away, and oft the painter in his works, to show the fairer white, doth set the blackest black of all against it over right. And I have heard, and so have you, our mistress often say, Why, Lord, dost thou love me so well that live in wealth alway? Grant to me, God, once in my life a little piece of thrall, but stand by me, good God, I say, let me not sink or fall. And this hath God, I warrant thee, done, for to show his might. And though her case do now seem crooked, he will set it aright. You see that time wears fast away, and we have much to do. Let us go home, and nothing say, as naught at all we knew.
Joachim entereth, looking about him. Muted at the moment, Joachim.
Are not the judges yet come here? Alas, what is their care? They weigh at all no poor man's case, but ply their dainty fare. I heard of late, I trust not true, they care not who do curse, or who do bless, they force it not, so they may fill their purse. O Lord, thou knowest how thou dost hate ye wicked, bribing wight. And I know, Lord, not one at all can hide him from thy sight. And if they be such wicked men as fame hath spread for true, to teach them, Lord, to mend their fault and frame themselves anew. Thou glorious not in sinners' seat, which from thy laws remove. Thou grantest them time of thy grace for to repent and live. I speak but as the common brute hath filled every ear. I hope myself, O Lord my God, they do thee love and fear. Well, since they are not come indeed, I will go home again, where till they come in viewing things, myself will take some pain. And God preserve and bless you all, I speak to each degree, and he always remain with you, and also go with me.
Here goeth out Joachim, and Helchia and his wife enter.
Sorrow oft times doth try a man, it is a manly part, when sorrows do oppress a man, to show a manly heart. Where weeping will not veil nor help, nor courtesy will serve, what vaileth then a manly heart his courage to let swerve? Well, wife, she is our daughter dear, and we her parents eke. Virtuous ever methought the wench, gentle, wise, and meek. And for our parts, thou knowest, O Lord, it was our chiefest awe, our daughter to instruct and teach the trade of Moses' law. And therefore, Lord, if our offence, or else her own desert, have been the cause of this her fall, yet qualify her smart, and grant that with her life her fame may also die, and that we hear no more her fault. This only boon ask I.
The loss of goods sometime doth move a man his heart to break, but of his child, ah me, alas, my sobs ne'er let me speak. These breasts my spouse with tender milk proceeding from my heart did give her suck, did nourish her, alas, most grievous smart, and from my breast until you gave her to be made a wife, I nourished her in God his fear, and loved her as my life. And sure I am those wicked men that do accuse her still, do it because that she herself would not obey their will. Then, Lord of thy high majesty, this only boon ask I, by guilty means thou wilt not let an innocent to die.
Peace, wife, attempt not God, thou knowest all flesh is frail.
I know also where is God fear. I know also where is God's fear. Such lust cannot prevail.
Peace, fie, I know as well as you that God can well withstand all kind of ill that may befall, but who can scape his hand? If God to show us what we are doth suffer us to fall, what flesh can that, O Lord, withstand? Not one amongst us all. And yet he shall not think by this that I do judge it true, that this is laid unto her charge, and both we thus do rue.
True. No, no, alas, not true. I trust it be, and yet that she shall die, therefore both our two eyes shall see.
Fie, wife, how oft hast thou thy neighbour's grief relieved, and why in this thy own distress are all thy senses mieved? Dost thou not know our Lord and God is able to make right the weakest part of simple men against all tyrants' spite? Dost thou not know how God himself did Toby always aid, and sent him home his son again for whom he was dismayed? And knowest not eke how that God, the more to show his might, when Toby had long time been blind, he gave to him his sight? Remember how the children three, for serving God aright, were thrust into the burning oven with terror and with spite, and how that he defended them amidst the flaming fire, and made the prince praise him by them, and mitigate his ire. These and 1,000 samples more God's goodness still doth show, that God will guiltless let her die. Good wife, do not think so.
God's goodness and his power and might all living creatures see, and therefore, Lord, even as thou wilt, we leave it unto thee.
You say right well, and in distress friends comfort every man. We will go see her heaviness, and ease her if we can.
And here they go out, and that's as far as we're getting text-wise today. Both the Servuus True Report sequence and the father and mother of Susanna scene that we've just had are doing really interesting things. So we've got a qualified if she guiltless be from Servuus, and True Report says no, she's absolutely guiltless. Helchia, the father, is doubtful, and Uxor, the wife, is absolutely adamant. No, she's fine. This is, and I think that's really interesting as build up to this case going forward. These events going forward. That some people are so far mostly just a little bit of doubting, which I think is very human, even amongst family. Whereas those are also adamant that that's not true. And I'm liking the fact that we have two people who are saying absolutely, adamantly, this is all slander, and that's really interesting from this text. David.
I mean, neither the servants nor Susanna's parents, I think, actually appear in the biblical story. So this is very much the playwright's invention and addition as a kind of commentary upon the actual basic story.
Yeah, the playwright's doing some really interesting work here in what he's choosing to show and not show, and do and not do, and to tweak. There is a little bit of filler moment with Joachim there. I couldn't help but smirk. Well, since they've not come, indeed, I will go home again. There's a certain busking quality to that. I may be being unfair on that bit. David, then Liza.
Yeah, I just want to speak up slightly for Joachim, as he's my character. But I think in a way he is the man of good intention against the actual goodness of Susanna. When the servants talk about Susanna, they talk about her giving to the poor and doing good things. And in Joachim's earlier speech, he's talked about those are the things you ought to do. Not necessarily he does them, but so he has a virtuous wife and he is virtuous in intention.
Yes, he's certainly not perfect, but there is no malice in him, and it's he comes in complaining about what the judges have been up to. So the judges are not being very subtle at all about what they've been up to. They're not setting up their case very well at all. Liza.
Yes. Again, we get a strange passage of time and information here, because Joachim, when he enters, seems not to have heard the slander that the judges are putting around about Susanna. But he has heard that they have turned to wicked ways, and that their judging is corrupt and oppressive. And then we get Helchias and his wife, and it's interesting. The man says, "Oh, what did we do wrong? Our daughter is corrupt," and he actually. Do I get this right? He's praying for her to die so that her shame will also die? And then his wife is like, I don't believe she did this. She's innocent. If she's innocent, don't let her die. So, here we have two examples of people who are inclined or not inclined to believe this slander, and that inclination seems to be gendered. So I'm sure we'll see more of this work out as it goes on.
Rachael.
No, I mean, there's a lot that I feel is on trial here. Like, she's very much on trial, and you wonder who is going to see her case at this moment. Is it going to be the people that, assaulted her and, that she's accusing? And there's that wonder of that. Is it just going to be a kangaroo court? And then also that there's that I think even up till now, at least in the United States, there's been controversies like in that, rape kits and things are just put in storehouses and sometimes aren't properly kept or even checked or put into databases, and that it's and that even without evidence, they're very hard to get convictions on, just because of how much it's one person's word against another. And it's like one of those things that unless somebody is caught in the act, that there's no there's not even a maybe we could do it. And I think there's something I think this play shows that there's that goes a very, very far back socially, that you don't know how this is going to go up, because it is this he said, she said. And then, like Liza said, that there's some time passing and there seems to be a lot of confusion, and that there's sympathy. It seems to be there's sympathy from other women, or at least her mother, who's the only woman we've seen since, the only other woman we get to see after this has happened. And I wonder what her female servants will have to say about her if they show up next time, about what has happened.
And I said earlier, that both the servants are, that both Servuus and True Report male. I'm now wondering whether True Report is gendered, or there is a stated gender there. Whether that's missing a point. We've spent a number of scenes looking at the court of public opinion here. The damage that is done regardless of the actual case itself. Lynsey.
Yes, it's sort of interesting what's happening with the parents, because, as Liza pointed out, the father comes on and says, oh, this manly heart of mine, and, all the rest of it. And, says that, if she's done it, then if she dies, then let the talk about it also die, so that we don't have to hear about it, and all of that. And then he goes, he's trying to shut his wife up, peace, wife, peace, fight, he's all doing that. And he's sort of, and then at the end he says, you say right well. And I just thought there's very interesting kind of fluctuation in what's happening there, I think.
And it's yeah. Other thoughts. We're at the end of the session. There are general things to be said. I'm actually looking slightly ahead to tomorrow, which I don't normally do. But the stage direction that we've got coming up next, this leads to a point we sort of stepped around earlier. Because we're about to have the return of the Vice-Ill report. That's where we start again. And again, we have a whole question about tone. We've had this very heavy series of scenes, and now we're basically going to head towards a stand-up routine. But the stage direction says, in my best petticoat. Now, I know that's a line from what they're saying, but I'm now wondering, when we were talking about the woman thing earlier, what was Ill Report supposed to be in drag in the earlier scene?
I thought that as well. There was a line of Ill Report, and I thought, oh no, it doesn't mean that. But it was something about I'm always in women's gear or something, and I thought, oh, it doesn't mean that. Gear means something different. But it did cross my mind when that line happened.
Liza.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a bawdy pun. Like, gear can mean sort of genitals or bodily stuff, as well as clothing or accoutrements, or just stuff in general. But if Ill Report, this is a leap. If Ill Report is dressed as a fool is habitually dressed, there was a saying that fools, children, and men holding office all went in long coats. So instead of your standard doublet and breeches, they would wear gowns with full skirts. And we've seen other plays where they talk about clowns in voluminous clothing. Usually it's like large trousers or something. But I think, okay, fashion historians of the internet slap me down if I'm wrong, as I often am. But I think petticoats is not necessarily gendered as such, that it can also mean the skirts of a full coat if a man is wearing it, although you do see it used, especially in jokes, in a gendered female way, so who knows, frankly. Yes, I stop now.
Yeah, no, I raised it as a relatively I wasn't very firm on it, but it was just a thought that occurred that maybe there's something odder going on with what that scene earlier was trying to do, and maybe that was a clue to it.
Well, it does seem, and we'll hear this tomorrow, Ill Report's little song about his petticoat does seem to be sort of vaguely gendered female. I use he, him pronouns for Ill Report just then, but again, we don't know. Ill Report seems ambiguous, non-binary, fluid. But yes, it seems to be the sort of song, a comedy maidservant would sing.
Eric?
Yeah, according to the Century Dictionary, a petticoat is a short coat or garment worn by men under the long overcoat, or secondly, a skirt, formerly the skirt of a woman's dress or robe, frequently worn over a hoop, that we know, but also in the plural, skirts worn by very young boys. So it's basically a non-gendered item of clothing.
Oh, excellent. Right,
or non-binary.
We are very much into final thoughts. You're free not to have any if you don't. We've got lots of questions about how this play is going to end. We've already seen that the playwright is making definite choices about what they're doing with the source material. So actually, there is an element that how it ends is up for grabs. At the moment, I continue to feel quite secure with what this playwright is trying to do. We could be horribly disappointed tomorrow. But I haven't been, I'm not saying that it's not perfect or that it's perfect or that it's not got elements that are problematic. But so far, I'm pleasantly surprised for what is a very, very difficult subject. So thoughts, questions, expectations, predictions, anything you want to add to close the session? Eric, do you have anything additional to say?
Not really. I've been trying to think if if I've read a play that has dealt with a similar subject, but I can't think of one. I mean, not necessarily early modern, just generally. Aside from maybe, no, I can't think of one. So it's interesting how it's actually a difficult topic and rare topic to find in playwriting as well. Well, aside from maybe like I don't know, Streetcar Named Desire or something like that.
David, any final thoughts?
I haven't anything particular to add. I'm really enjoying it so far, and like you, looking forward to seeing where it's going.
Rachael, any final thoughts?
No, I just like that it's kind of more sympathetic to Susanna than, accusers. It's not something that I guess I expected to see. And even though the topic is I don't know, this feels like a criticism dressed up as a comedy, that it's a social commentary under this comedy about I don't know. I think this is it's very relevant even to today, because it's so similar to the way these things can play out. And then just the thing about Artemisia Gentileschi, and that other, it was a woman who made an underpainting that was supposed to be like hers, and I got the two mixed up.
That's cool. It's we're in Liza. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, really, just that I've been loving the discussion today. This play has yielded a lot of, I think, just a lot of talk about important things. And, I'm very grateful to be in this group discussing this play with you. And, just basically... Oh, the other thought I had was about another play that we have done, Jacob and Esau. And it seems to me the two plays do similar things, in that Jacob and Esau takes a story that occurs between two brothers and their father and broadens it into a drama involving a whole family. And this takes the biblical story that people know about Susanna and the two judges and broadens it to include this whole household and almost by extension this whole town, this whole community. But you get Susanna and her husband and the servants and her parents. And, so I think it's those things that make the story or that make this version of the story especially notable.
Lynsey, any final thoughts?
Yes, not much to add from the points that have been made or that I've made earlier, but I'm very interested to see what happens next, and in terms of how if there is a trial, if there is a kangaroo court, how it's presented, what happens to ill report, what the fate of ill report is. I have some ideas about what's going to happen in the next session, simply because of the casting. But I'm not going to read ahead, because I'm going to savor the anticipation and hopefully the surprise.
Yes, well, following on from some plays we've done, following on from Patient Grisel, this has so far been a very intelligent working. And though the text looks on a surface level looks like it's quite simple, there's a lot of work going on under the surface of what this text seems to be doing. I'm hoping that it's going to continue in good ways further on, and not ruin. It's a question of is the curse of the final session going to strike again, or are we going to have a ending that we're going to be satisfied with? How a narrative like this ends is almost as important as what's going on in the middle, and in fact possibly more so. Thanks very much to all the wonderful readers for all their work today, for what's felt like a very, very valuable session. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.